I wish to introduce Sonya Nevin, and to introduce Sonya's research achievements, you need many words. So I will only limit myself to saying that she's a marathon runner, research marathon runner, her newest book. And to introduce Sonya as a wonderful colleague, there are never enough words. So I will only tell you that she cooperates also with Veronique. She and Steve Simons prepare amazing animations based on ancient Greek vases. And I will send you also a link to the Iris Goddess of Rainbow animation. And here you can see various language versions, including one version in Ukrainian, prepared by our PhD student, Olga Cholesnik. So this animation belongs to the set of educational materials that can be used with children of all ages, hopefully all over the world, because we wish to have also other language versions. So please do share if you like them, because they are all in open access. And I invite now Sonya to speak about one very particular animation.
Thank you very much. Yes, it really is fantastic to be with you all here virtually, and I may just say that I hope that I'm actually in a hotel room, so I hope that the internet can handle this, but it should be fine. And I will say, some of you may recognize this vase. It depicts the poet Sappho, and the vase itself lives in the National Museum in Warsaw. And as part of our mythical childhood, Steve Simons and I brought this vase to life in the animation Sappho 44, Hector and Andromache, A Wedding at Troy. And I would like to talk to you a little bit today about that process, and about the next steps, and about another very recent development. Here you can see some of the preparation work. So Sappho here has been removed from the pot, and well, she is therefore ready for adapting, and here she is exploded into her different parts. And once she has been deconstructed in this way, she can then be reconstructed and pinned back together as a moving digital puppet. And in terms of action, of course, we wished to show her playing her instrument. And the next thought was to associate her playing with a particular poem, one of her poems in particular, rather than, and to focus on a particular surviving fragment of her work. And appropriate to mythical childhood, we chose the most myth-orientated of Sappho's surviving fragments, and that's fragment number 44, the marriage of Hector and Andromache. When we are thinking about, the representation, not only of Sappho, but of her poem, we decided to express the idea of the artist as creator. So when she plays, we had the idea that we would pull back that black slip that is over the pot, and as Sappho plays, her words can then begin to appear in front of her, in English or in Polish, depending on the version that you watch. And with those words beginning to appear, it's like magic words, of course, appropriate from the previous panel, as if like magic words from poetry, the figures who are mentioned in the poem then begin to appear and act out that fragment. And we modelled those figures on geometric pottery, an earlier type of pottery, and that was to evoke the idea of long ago, an idea that Sappho is evoking the past when she is thinking about the past, singing about the past. She brings that earlier style of pottery. And here you can see the side by side. So on one side you have some geometric women with their characteristic triangle shaped bodies and large cross-hatched skirts, and then you can see our equivalent with the cross-hatched skirted Andromache there. And I think it is about time, if you will give me a moment, I will just switch around a little bit and so we can watch the animation. But before we do, I will just mention that you may recall, if you've heard me talk about this work before, that we worked with Armand Dangour of Jesus College in Oxford, and he scored the music for the animation from the lyrics in the poem. So the tune that you hear is something very like the tune that would have accompanied this poem when it was performed in Antiquity. And so if you will just bear with me 2 seconds, I will reshare and we can watch the animation.
Oh yes, now we can see.
Lovely. And yes, sorry about the sharing issue there at the start. If you haven't seen it before, or if you are mad keen to see it again, you can see it, of course, online. So if you go to our website, panoply.org.uk, oh yes, and the link is in the chat there. You can have a look at it yourself as many times as you like. And well, you see what I mean there about the way the figures appear and they are performing the poem. Some of you have seen that, some of you may not have done, but I think fewer of you will have seen or heard what it was that we did next, which was that we had a second recording made of the poem. Again, it was so special that we've been able to get it scored the way it would have sounded in the past, that we thought maybe we would explore the idea of creating a more musically satisfying version of it. So I will now give you the version created when we approached the ancient music specialist Aliki Markantanatu, and she is a Greek specialist in ancient reconstructions. And so she took some guidance from Armand and worked with that score, and then created a version with a perhaps a richer musical quality, you might say. So again, if you just give me 1 second here. So I really hope you enjoyed that. And the soundscape is a little bit unusual to us, I think, to modern ears. But I really think that's part of the joy of it. It really does stretch our sensory experience of the ancient world fundamentally. And I'm glad we were able to sort the screen share out there, because obviously the main emphasis is on the sound of it, but there is something valuable about being able to follow the lyrics more clearly. So I think that is that's added to its usefulness, if you like. This is Ali Key here, who performed all the different parts of that music, and was really just delighted with how she did. And then, yes, to make this material a little bit more approachable and to increase its impact, we explored some of the themes in the poem and the vase and the animation, and we explored them in a short documentary called About Sappho. And this lives freely online along with the two different videos that you've seen. And it includes more about the Trojan War, and there is also in it a timeline that helps you understand the chronological distances between the Trojan War, the Homeric epics, Sappho's poetry, and the Warsaw vase that depicts Sappho. We also have Armand Dangour explaining the process of creating the musical score, and we also made further resources to basically support teaching and teaching with the animation, teaching about Sappho. So there is, for example, a PowerPoint with a lot of information that's downloadable from alongside the different videos. And that's now been taken further, many thanks to my post at Warsaw, which has given me the opportunity to develop an open access publication which brings together these different resources along with animation linked lesson plans written by teachers all over the world. And that includes Michael, whose other interesting work we have heard so much about earlier. And the book will be called Teaching Ancient Greece, Lesson Plans, Animations and Resources. And the Sappho section will include the introduction to Sappho that's available, Armand's musical score, so people can make their own recordings of it, the lesson plans, and those cover thinking about marriage in ancient Greece, the Trojan War with a Brazilian twist, and Sappho's poetry with ideas for creating your own poetry if you want to create lyrical poetry. That's actually been done by Aliki herself. And these give a step-by-step guide to using these resources within lessons, each with a different challenging activity for young people to do. And then, yes, all three Sappho videos live online on our website. There's a special Mythical Childhood page on there, and there's a front page shortcut straight to Sappho. And I should say, our website is new. We have revamped the website, and it's now hosted by the Cambridge Schools Classics Project, with whom we now have a formal partnership. And CSCP, as it's known, is a project of the University of Cambridge's Faculty of Education. It's been going back 50 years. Its director is Caroline Bristow, who many of you will have met and know as a member of the cluster. And she would be here with us today if she wasn't on an airplane as we speak. And the purpose of CSCP is to support classics and classical education. And they have a long tradition of supporting Latin in particular, especially through their course, the Cambridge Latin course. And that's one of the most widely used Latin courses in the English-speaking world. And the aims of their course are to teach comprehension of the language, but also, as you can see, to develop understanding of the history and culture of Roman civilization. So that's its dual purpose, with a third one thrown in. And the team at CSCP are currently in the process of revising book 2 of the Latin course. And this book, as the name suggests, is for Latin learners who've already done a little bit of introduction. The stories in book 2, they will now move them beyond Italy into Roman provinces, and book 2 features some adventures in Roman Britain and some in Roman Egypt. The series has been around for quite a while, as I say, 50 odd years. So some of the revisions are intended to reflect more modern values. and to reflect the fact that there just isn't the same kind of pronounced sex difference in who learns Latin these days as there once was. And so as part of that, the stories will do a lot more to include female characters. So they keep the core stories, but they've adapted them a little bit. And the characters, the female characters who appear in the Latin stories now have fully rounded personalities, when that was not quite the case before. And as part of this, the Roman families who we meet will be aware of some of the women who have made major cultural contributions. And there will also be more emphasis on Greek culture amongst the Romans. This is part of a move to get a bit more Greek culture into what is otherwise a very Rome-dominated school situation. So it is that our Romano-Egyptian family, who the Roman family visit in Alexandria, that will include a woman who is inspired to love history by Pamphile of Epidaurus, a female scholar who worked under Nero. Another character who we meet is interested in the philosophy of Hypatia of Alexandria. And the daughter of the household aspires to be a poet like her father. She is busy writing Sapphic poetry. And to support this, there is some factual information on who Sappho is. And this is illustrated, you've guessed it, by the Warsaw Sappho vase. And here she is alongside a photo of the theatre of Alexandria and a statuette of Hypatia. And this inclusion of Sappho is intended to increase positive female representation in the Latin course. And the idea is that by including mention of her and the persisting influence of her poetry, teachers and students can use that as a scaffold into further learning about Sappho and related topics. And I must say, you might appreciate this a little bit more when I tell you that in developing the Sappho lesson plans, we found that the teachers working with the Sappho vase and the Sappho animation, they found that their teachers guessed that the woman on the vase with the lyre was a prostitute. And they had all learned a massive amount about hetaira, courtesans, prostitution in Athens, but none of them knew anything about Sappho or other female creators. And of course, this isn't the students at fault. It's an indication of the loaded weighting of the older teaching material. So this is quite a welcome rejig, I think. And the use of the Warsaw Sappho vase is a product of the cluster. It's driven by an opportunity to help teachers incorporate all of the mythical childhood Sappho material into their further exploration of Sappho poetry or Greek cultural influence at Rome. So if you are reading book 2 of the Cambridge Latin course, why not find out more about Sappho through this animation or this musical recording or this documentary? And the videos provide a natural extension for teachers looking for other materials to explore. I mean, the Sappho Warsaw vase, it's a splendid vase that already enjoys an international reputation. But nonetheless, it's very pleasing that the revised Cambridge Latin course will integrate it further into the formative learning of a great many young people. And of course, it's very satisfying to know that our mythical childhood resources will be integrated and into that very widely used teaching material. So bravo, Sappho, and thank you all very much for listening.
Thank you very much. And it's also bravo, Sonia and Steve. So it wouldn't be possible, all this. It's your great, amazing success. And I'm really sure, you know, one day an Oscar will go to you, but earlier even, you know, many museums, many teachers all over the world, they are wonderful resources that can reach really the heart of the young people.